Welcome back to This is VANCOLOUR. Last year, Canadians spent the lowest amount in 5 years on their Christmas shopping. But what about this year? Are we going YOLO this holiday season? Here to discuss is an award-winning Canadian broadcaster. You know her from the Shopping Channel, City TV's Breakfast Television. Maybe you've even seen her perform. She is a very talented jazz singer. She is Dawn Chubai. And this conversation is brought to you by Pacific Sands Beach Resort in Tofino. Laid back luxury, as beachfront as it gets. So Dawn, I feel like the vibes are not so great this year. We know they weren't great last year when it comes to Christmas shopping and how much Canadians are spending. You're an expert. What are you seeing? What are you feeling out there in terms of Canadian consumers?
Well, it's funny because not only are we seeing an increase, which I know maybe it doesn't feel like that because it feels like we're still pinching our pennies, but we are seeing a month over month, year over year, quarter over quarter increase. Yeah, not a ton, like we're talking 0.3, 0.4%, but all the projections, and that's whether you go to PwC, Deloitte, JLL, Retail Council of Canada, there is a projection that the consumer is in fact budgeting to spend anywhere, and again, depends on where the survey is taken, but anywhere between 8 and as much as 13%. So I think we're ready to spend more, but I think we are tapping into different motivations than maybe we did in the past.
And what sort of motivations then?
Well, when a customer makes a purchase, you're always dealing with either a need or a want. Yeah. And at this time of year, we do tend to go. It's all about the want, right? But the thing is we are starting to drive some of our purchases. I fully believe, and also in what I've experienced in the retail space with brands I work with and even at the Shopping Channel, is do we feel connection to that brand? So, and we're also deciding how much do we really want something, right? We have those motivators, those driving factors that give you a sale. And yes, the offer, the price, all of that is important. But I think as we move forward, how much value are we getting? And sometimes that is a mental thing. Sometimes it's a dollar-wise thing. It really is each individual consumer that has to decide for themselves that value proposition.
Now, I know that we're going to get a GST relief on certain items, particularly kids' clothing, kids' toys. Is that going to give us a little more confidence to spend a little more?
Well, it's like winning the lottery, right? I mean, when someone goes,
a kind of a crappy lottery, not the best.
It's not. I mean, if you look at it, if you think over that 2 months, let's say you're spending, and I'll just use this as a random number, let's say you're spending $2,000. You might end up scoring an extra $100 in your pocket. Yeah. So just to think about that. So it does, in a way, feel like you're getting more money. And to that point, I guess what we'll start to feel is maybe more of that permission to spend more. Now, I'd like to think that maybe if we had that extra dollar, all we would do is go, great, I've got an extra dollar to spend. Challenge is we don't always look at this as a saving, right? We look at it as a permission to buy. So if I've got an extra dollar to spend, the odds are I'm going to probably spend 10 extra dollars, right? So, I mean, it will be a motivation.
I was just thinking, that sounds like a recipe for blowing your budget.
Yeah, for those that have a budget. And I think most people do. Somehow around the holidays, we tend to put that a little bit by the wayside. It's not so much the money we don't have, it's how much money can we access. That's when you start to get the credit cards. And if there are sales, you do tend to, again, give yourself that permission to buy. But, this is where I see, again, even in consumer spend with big shopping channels and then each individual brand that I have worked with and sold for, what they are willing to do to get that sale, to get that extra dollar out of somebody.
Okay, so let's dig into that because I'm curious about retailers in Canada. Are we seeing them discount items that maybe they were selling at a higher price earlier in the year?
Well, certainly big brands have a lot more opportunity, right, to drive more sales, to get your hard-earned dollar. I think where the challenge we see is some of the smaller businesses. For a smaller business to give that same discount is a lot more difficult. We're dealing with independent businesses, often run by one person. And of course, things like a postal strike doesn't help the situation. So I think we'll start to see more incentives from the local businesses and trying to give that connection. But absolutely, I mean, a sale is going to be a magnet, but there is a lot of competition out there. So once again, what I am seeing, what I feel is going to happen is we are going to be looking for more of a personal connection to the brands that we support as part of that value proposition.
That's fascinating because I actually had to drag myself to the mall because of the postal strike. Usually I would order something online and I was like, well, because of the strike, I should probably actually buy the physical thing.
Yeah, and I think we are seeing more people going to the malls. I mean, I work in that live and social commerce space as part of what I do with brands as they navigate, more sales and drive sales with the consumer. But even with the brands I'm looking at, of course, they are not only stopping at online shopping. The goal right now is to get them in store. It feels good to go into the store as a consumer. The music is playing. The smells are great. People are festive. I mean, it is a whole vibe. And I think what we're going to see is, yes, probably more consumers trying to make their way in store, but I don't think they're letting go of shopping with Amazon and shopping on the .coms. I think it's going to be a bit of a coordination. But once again, I mean, getting into the store certainly gives more incentive. And it is a way to be able to sometimes, especially with a small business, get to actually see the person behind the brand. And that's where that connection is so important.
Yeah. Now, you're basically a consumer guru of sorts. So in 30 seconds or less, give us the philosophy of setting a budget and being able to stick to that this holiday season.
Yeah, for me, it's less about what your budget might be. I mean, everyone has a budget. You have to decide what that is. But if I were to offer a real tip and trick to be able to stay to whatever that is, if you were not going to buy it at full price, let's assume you had the money. If you weren't going to buy it at full price, why are you buying it on sale? It has to be something you really want. It has to be something that you've been dying to have. And if you are that person that can be motivated to buy via a sale or a call to action, then great. But if you weren't going to buy it at full price, maybe it's not something you need at half price.
That is fantastic advice. I'm going to use that. Dawn, thank you so much for your time tonight.
Thank you so much.
Folks, a songstress, shopping expert, veteran broadcaster, in addition to a sales and media trainer. She is Dawn Chubai. Thank you so much to Pacific Sands Beach Resort in Tofino for supporting local conversations with local shopping superstars. Now, after some business, Taylor Swift is in town. Will her shows cause an actual earthquake? We'll get the Forbes report up next.